Welcome back everyone to another Unreal Engine 4 tutorial, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about world composition. So in the previous video we talked about the level streaming. Make sure you go check this video out. It's going to be very useful because this method probably is still going to be used in Unreal Engine 5. World composition apparently is not going to be in the Unreal Engine 5 anymore, but there's probably going to be something very similar, but it's just simply going to be called a little different. So let's begin the tutorial. First, what I'm going to do is actually create ourselves a new map, because it's going to be a little bit easier for me to demonstrate things through a new map rather than using these level streaming possibilities that I used over here. So let's start fresh. Let's add a new level, and I'm going to call this master level. Let's open this up, and by default it's a blank dark level. So real quick, sky sphere, sky light, and a directional light. So very basic setup. So the sky sphere, directional light, there we go. So we have that set up, and then I'm going to add ourselves a landscape, and this is going to be the ground grass, create. There we go. So we have our landscape, and now let me show you the level composition possibilities. Now you got to make sure that you only have the persistent level when you enable this option, because you need to enable the world composition. It's not going to work if there already are like sub levels. You need to have the master level, enable the world composition, and then you can start adding the child levels. So for that, what you want to do is enable your world settings. If you don't have them here, then go to the settings, click world settings, and it's going to pop open. And then in the world section, you want to enable world composition. Enable that, and as soon as you do that, this new icon is going to appear. So you can click on that, and this brings you the world composition panel where you can see your world from the top-down view. Now I'm going to move this over here for now. Let's leave the landscape as well, because we're going to be splitting our landscape into multiple levels so that it works with our land composition as well. So first, you got to make sure that your levels are in a separate folder, so there's no subfolders to this. Otherwise, if you're going to create your level in the main content folder, it's going to grab all the sub levels, and then it might mess with your levels hierarchy, and you don't want that. You want your levels to be in a separate folder. So let's add ourselves a new level. So I'm going to create a new level, and let's move it to the world composition folder. And again, I'm going to use the same name as in the previous video, new map 001. And I'm going to add another one, and this is going to be the new map 002. So I'm going to enable these, and first let's start very basic, just like in the previous video. Let's add some details which we can show and hide. And so let me just bring in some basic shapes. So I'm going to have some cubes in level 1. So selected actor is in the level 1. So I already spoke about this in the previous video, but you got to make sure that your level is activated in which you want to place the actors in. So you want to double click this, it's going to turn blue, and also on the bottom right it's going to say the level that you are in. And also whenever you select any of the actors or whatever you might have in the level, it's going to tell you that the selected actors are in this and that level. So in my case, my landscape is in the master level, the persistent one, and these cubes are in the new map 1. So we have cubes in the new map 1. Let's go to the new map 2, and let's place spheres in this one. So let's add a bunch of spheres. So we have those added to our map, and now let's try to actually stream these, because if we press play, unlike the level streaming, we can see these by default. They are all available because, well, these levels are enabled and we can see everything. Now to change this, what you want to do is go to your world compositions panel. So we can already see these maps over here. We have the new map 02 and new map 001. And you can see that if we hover over this, it says the streaming distance. So we can see this from 50,000 units from this object. It's going to start to load this. If we walk really far away, it's going to unload this by default. but let me just demonstrate you how can you set up your own values, because obviously if this is like an interior thing of some kind of a building, then you might want to unload these things a little bit quicker. If this is like some kind of a mountain at the outer parts of the map, then maybe you want to keep this in the memory for a longer period. So let's click on this plus sign up here next to the uncategorized, and I'm gonna call this short load dist. And just for the demonstration purposes only, I'm gonna make this something like ridiculously small, which is gonna be 1000, and I'm gonna hit create. So now we have this category available to us, so we can go back to the levels panel, right click our levels, we can assign to a layer, and I'm going to assign to my short load distance. And I'm going to do the same thing for both of these. So now if I press play, you can see we can't really see anything. But if we walk closer, there we go. We loaded one and we loaded the other one. And as soon as we leave the area, it is unloading those specific levels. There we go. So that's basically how the world composition works. We set up a distance and then it loads and unloads the necessary or unnecessary data for us, the blueprints and whatever else that you might have in that specific map. And now the next thing that you probably are wondering is how can you delete this short load distance, because there is no real option to do so. For that, what you want to do is again create a new layer, or maybe move this back to the uncategorized, but for the demonstration I'm going to add a new new layer, so I can move this to a different one, and I'm going to call this medium load distance, and I'm going to set this to like 5000 instead. Again, hit create, go back to the levels, and I'm going to move both of not that one, assign to layer, medium load distance. Now once we go back to the world composition, we can still see this, and to get rid of it, what you want to do is actually reopen your master level. So I'm going to save, reopen, and as soon as we do that, you can see these things are gone. Now every time when you're going to open up your project, your child maps are going to be unloaded. That's a good thing, because it will take you less time to open this project up, and you maybe don't want to work in the whole map. Maybe you want to work on some specific pieces, so you don't need to load all your maps. But if you do, then every time you open, you double click them and they're going to be reactivated. So now if we press play, you can see the objects are loaded, and if we walk 5000 units away, those things are getting unloaded the way they should be. So yeah, that's basically how world composition works. It's very similar to level streaming, but we don't need any volumes for streaming. It basically detects the units, how far away are we from there, and it actually makes our life a lot easier than creating those streaming volumes all the time, because, well, they pile up pretty fast, to be honest. Now, the next thing that I want to show you is that you can actually overlap maps. For example, we have these objects right here, so we could create another map and then place an object in the same position, and that's technically will overlap the maps, and that's totally fine, because obviously depending on your setup you might want to do that. So like I said previously, let's say you have like a building, so you're going to want to have that in one of your sub-levels, and then maybe the interior could be in a different sub-level, so that it wouldn't get loaded whenever you just see the house, because if you're far away from the house, the player can't see what's inside of it, so it doesn't matter and it can be unloaded. That's probably pretty understandable how to do that. The same process, create a new map and then just place the objects where you want them and then assign them to a specific layer. Now, but what I'm going to do is actually split up my landscape. So to do so, what you want to do is select your landscape, and actually before that I'm going to add 2 more levels, and I'm going to call this land 001, save, and I'm going to add another one which is going to be land 002, so that basically the landscape and these objects are separate maps. So I'm going to enable both of these, and then I'm going to go to the first one, land 001. I'm going to select the landscape, I'm going to go to the modes, landscape, and then I'm going to hit the select tool. And now I'm going to select a specific part of the map. So I'm going to only select this one, and then once I've done that, I want to make sure that I'm in the level that I want to move this piece to. So this is going to be the level land 001. I'm going to click move, and click on this piece that I have selected. And as soon as I do that, this part is already in that level, and I can make sure of it by opening the levels tab and toggling on and off this level, so I can see that part is already in the land 001. So I'm going to move the rest to the other one. So I'm going to activate that level, click select, and I'm going to select all the other pieces of this. Obviously you will probably in a real project you will want to do this in maybe more pieces than I am right now, but for the demonstration I'm just going to have 2. So I'm going to move, and then I can see this seems to be just fine. Now back in the world composition, I'm going to add a new distance to this, and I'm going to add back the short load distance, so it's a little bit easier to demonstrate this. And I'm going to make this like 1000 units, hit create, and back in the levels I'm going to assign this layer to my landscape, so short load distance. Now let me zoom in real quick. Let's hit play, and you can see, like I said, the levels are overlapping, but as long as we set the correct streaming distances, it's going to load the way we want it to, and it doesn't matter if they are overlapping each other as long as we get the result that we desire. So yeah, that's basically it. That's how you work with the world composition and stream levels using this method. Also, what you can do is go to your world composition and actually move these pieces around. So I have my land, just like this one, for example. I can move this away like so, and now it's over there. This method obviously is not going to be like super pixel perfect, because as you can see it snaps. So it's pretty good, but obviously if you want to make some tiny adjustments, you're going to want to do the regular method by selecting the actor and moving it around. But if you want to make like a huge change, you want to move the block to the different part of your map, then this method is going to be really quick and simple for you. And obviously you can select the lower levels as well, but just make sure that if you have selected the parent level, you're not going to be really able to select those small ones. So maybe unselected by clicking somewhere else and then hover over it. And as soon as it says that map's name, you can select that. And as you can see, you can move it around. So yeah, that's going to be it for the world composition. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them down in the comment section down below. Also, feel free to join my Discord, where you will find help for basically anything Unreal Engine 4 related. And yeah, subscribe to my channel, and I see you in the next one.